an event did you attend that was up there?
Oh, I apologize. It was actually it was a paneled event, and they would talk. It was for Black History Month last year. I don't know what time it'll be by the time you watch this, so good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Today's video is going to be super duper quick. It's like 7 a.m. in the morning for me right now. And I want to talk about these tiny tablets that, in honesty, I don't have to take, but I've chosen to take because, well, for several reasons. One of them being I'm actively doing something about minimizing, decreasing my chances of recurrence. These pills that I'm talking about, and I'm going to show you guys the bottle in a second, but these pills that I'm talking about are under the category of hormonal treatment, which if you had estrogen, if you had or have estrogen receptor positive breast cancer. So again, that's estrogen receptor positive breast cancer. You will be offered hormonal treatment as a means of just kind of decreasing the likelihood of the cancers returning. Hormonal treatment is not available for triple negative breast cancer. It's only available for estrogen receptor positive breast cancer. So I'm kind of just going off the whim with this video, and please forgive me, I'm dressed, but I'm really still waking up. Here it is. Can you see that? All right, so Examestane is used to treat both early and late stage estrogen receptor positive breast cancer. Again, as I mentioned earlier, it is not available for I can't seem to say that word. I want to say triple, but it is not available for triple negative breast cancer. Also, if Examestane doesn't sound familiar, the other popular and more common name for it is Aromacin. And Aromacin is used in postmenopausal women, but obviously I was diagnosed at 29 and I'm 32 right now, and I have not naturally gone through menopause. So what they did is what I call induced menopause, was probably a real term, but I have been induced into menopause through the Lupron shot. And I talked about it in this video, so make sure you watch that video. I talked about it briefly, but the Lupron shot is actually what keeps me in menopause. It shuts down my ovaries and it lowers, and when your ovaries are shut down, your estrogen levels also go like this. Which is why I experience all of those symptoms that any woman that's going through menopause also experiences. Now, Examestane or Aromacin is not effective without actually being in menopause. So it is used in conjunction with being postmenopausal. So if the woman who has been diagnosed with breast cancer is already in menopause, your doctor may suggest this. If you were like me and you were not or hadn't gone through menopause at that point, they will induce you into menopause so that you can then also use Examestane or Aromacin in conjunction as a way to, again, mitigate these possibly dormant cells that are still roaming in your body that surgery and chemotherapy and radiation did not catch. And it does this by slowing the growth of tumors that are fueled, by the estrogen. So some people wonder, is Examestane, Aromacin, is it a chemotherapy drug? The answer is no. It is not an oral chemotherapy. It is an aromatase inhibitor. And so it has fewer side effects than chemotherapy does, but it does come with its own really long list of side effects. And I'm going to share some of those today, including the ones that I experience almost on a daily basis. So side effects of Examestane include fatigue, hot flashes, depression, pain, which is really broad, but because pain is subjective and we all experience pain to varying degrees, and I'll break that down a little bit further, but pain is a huge one. It's one that I experienced from the day that I started taking the medication. You have insomnia, anxiety, shortness of breath, abdominal pain, constipation, diarrhea, joint pain, hair loss, hair thinning. Some of the least common symptoms include like persistent nausea and vomiting, dark urine. Also, I know another one is like breakthrough bleeding, so vaginal bleeding. Even though you're in menopause, if you notice that you're bleeding, it could be a side effect of the Examestane. So that's something to kind of be mindful of as well. Now, which of these symptoms do I experience? I really want to say that it feels like I experience all of them, but I don't. I don't experience all of them, but I do experience a significant amount. I am so sorry, guys. I keep stuttering today. Like I said, I'm still trying to wake up. It's 7:17 now, so yeah. So within the first 4 to 6 months of starting the Examestane, I actually experienced vaginal bleeding, which freaked me out because I hadn't had a menstrual cycle since like earlier that year, since like April of that year, and this was like November, December of that year, and I had vaginal bleeding. I was like, whoa, wait a minute, I should not be bleeding. And so I had a couple of tests done just to make sure that it actually wasn't like cervical cancer, and grateful that it wasn't. But so I did experience the vaginal bleeding, and I experienced that twice, but I never experienced it again after that. The other symptoms that I've experienced consistently include constipation. That has been a consistent thing to the point where I have had to use, what is it called? I'll show you guys in a second. But constipation has been a daily struggle. There has not been a day that I have not been constipated. And a little TMI, but I am pretty much unable to really kind of go to the bathroom by myself without the assistance of this beautiful white powdered substance here. And then the other symptom that I experience is the insomnia and not being able to sleep. Now this comes in waves. There are times where I can sleep perfectly fine, and then there are times, and it usually lasts anywhere from a couple of days to about a week and a half, where I just cannot sleep. So I'm either falling asleep really, really late, which means anywhere from 1 to 4 o'clock in the morning, and I usually have to be up anywhere between 6 and 6:45. Or I'm falling asleep really late and I'm waking up multiple times during the night. Last night I got 2 hours of sleep, then I woke up for about 2.5 hours, and I went back to sleep for like another 2 hours. So that's typically what happens. Last night is the least number of times that I've woken up over the last 5 days. Over the last 5 days, I've been waking up about 4 to 6 times a night. It really sucks because then when I get to work, I'm exhausted. So this is the substance that I put this in my coffee, which I drink too much of, but I don't put it in my water because it tastes grainy. I drink a lot of water. I just don't put this in my water because it makes my water taste grainy. So my coffee, I don't drink juice, I don't drink soda, but coffee or tea every single day, I put a top full, and ideally it should be twice a day, but at least once a day. And in the last couple of years, I've probably only missed a total of like 20 days. One of my favorite mugs. So while waiting for my coffee to brew, I'll talk about the side effect that I experienced the most and has been the most daunting for me, and that is the muscle, bone, and joint pain. That has been, I'm gonna be honest, it's been hell, because I honestly feel like I feel a lot older than I actually am. And I go to the gym at least at minimum 2 to 3 times a week, on the higher end 3 to 4 times a week. If I'm really like feeling it, it'll be like up to 5 times a week, but it's usually between 3 and 4 times a week to help with that. But the bone pain is so daunting that sometimes I can't even walk. Like, my husband and I may be at the store, and if the pain kicks in, I start wobbling, I start limping. It's really bad first thing in the morning. When I first wake up, I literally have to like wait for my joints to activate. And so like the first 10 seconds I'm wobbling to the bathroom, or I'm like almost hopping, because it takes a few seconds for, you know, my body to kind of, or for my bones to be ready for movement. So it's almost like a stick that I'm trying to bend and isn't bendable until it's ready. And then the muscle aches, it almost feels like, it just feels like someone punched you, and whatever large muscle wants to ache at that time. So usually I'll feel it like in my lower extremity. It's usually in my calves or my thighs or my hamstrings. Usually not my hamstrings, that's rare, but it's usually my calves or my thighs. And then I feel it in my arms, I'll feel it in my back. And then I get like these weird muscle spasms that just take over. And it's happened when I'm driving sometimes, where I've actually had to pull over, or it's also happened, I think my coffee's ready. It's so the muscle pain just, it's so overpowering that you might see me like grit my teeth. If it's happening while I'm at work, I'll either like stretch out so that I can extend my body. But sometimes it's so bad that I just have to actually stop what I'm doing. So the other day, my husband and I, we were in Walmart, and we were actually walking out of the store, and I had to stop walking. I had to just stand there. So he helped me kind of like wobble back into Walmart because it was raining, and just waited. We kind of just waited for the pain to subside. And so then I mix it in real good, so that I drink my coffee black. I don't put cream, I don't put sugar. This is just how I haven't actually always drank my coffee like this, but for the last like 6 years, this is the only way I prefer my coffee. So that's been the constipation and the bone joint muscle pain have been my top symptoms that have not been shaken. Like, they won't go away. Those muscle aches are terrible. And I'm laughing because there's nothing else I can do. I mean, I literally am like, when those pains kick in, I literally go from being 32 to about 72. And I say that in, you know, a way of not trying to be like judgmental and stereotypical, because there are 72-year-olds who are out there living who don't feel like that. But that's the closest thing that I can describe it to as a 32-year-old. So then I guess the only other thing I want to talk about really quickly, I keep saying really quickly, but it's not like my videos are 30 seconds. These hormone therapy drugs for breast cancer are just options. So when they do our Oncotype score as well, they look at they give you like a roundabout percentage of your recurrence risk. And they will say, okay, based on this number, you would highly benefit, not really benefit, or there's a neutral ground from chemotherapy. And because it's estrogen receptor positive, it is important that you do hormonal therapy after chemotherapy and or radiation to continue decreasing the likelihood of the breast cancer returning. There are some women who opt out of doing the hormonal therapy, but when you have a number like 22% like mine, I'm not gonna lie, that's scary. You know, I've been told, well, don't focus on the 22%, focus on the more positive side of that, which is that I'm terrible at math, the 70 something else percent of it not returning. But 22% is a pretty high number. So I chose to do it, or I choose to do it. You are encouraged to do it at minimum 5 years. They used to say 5 years and you're done. Now they're actually saying 10 years. So my treatment plan at this time is the Lupron times Examestane for a minimum of 7 to 10 years. Right now I'm on it, and those are the side effects that I experience. And so I would love to know from those of you who are currently doing hormonal treatments after breast cancer, which ones are you on? Because there's also tamoxifen, there's letrozole, there's Arimidex. I hope I'm saying that correctly. Those are other aromatase inhibitors that your doctor may prescribe. And again, there's so many factors, whether you're postmenopausal, premenopausal. Some doctors will start you out on tamoxifen, but if the side effects are way too grave, then they'll drop you down to something else. And if that's not working, they'll try something else. So there's a variety of options. And lastly, just to emphasize how terrible the bone pain I experience is, it is so bad that I've actually had to have like bone degeneration tests because it was just bad. But again, like I always say, I'm here, I'm alive. So for now, I'll take it. Till next time.